Hey everyone. If you are new to the podcast here, my name is Jeba Edmonds. I've been an educator for over 18 years. I wanted to start right on teaching as many people as I can all about social justice in education. What is social justice in education? My favorite website that is all things social justice for educators is by the Southern Poverty Law Center Learning for Justice website. I will have that information also for you in the show notes. It's a free subscription. Educators and community members alike can subscribe to their resource hub. I really love how the Learning for Justice organization really crafts companion lesson plans, themes, open-ended prompts and questions to guide teachers and students in understanding of social justice in a meaningful way that does not cause harm. So I got one of their articles written by Professor Leanne Bell, Dr. Bell, and the title is called What is Social Justice Education? And Leanne walks you through talking about our historical marginalized and oppressed groups of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. She goes into what social justice should be painted as. And I found a really good pictograph of, you've probably seen it when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, of a group of 3 people of different sizes, and they are watching a soccer game. Pictograph is a male, a female, and a child. And there's a wooden fence. And it breaks it down for equality, equity, and justice. And some people are visual learners. I'm a visual learner, so this is a good depiction of what the difference between equality, equity, and justice. The group of 3 people, they are watching a soccer game. The child cannot see over the fence. For the equality definition, they have the 3 people standing on a crate. The crate is the same size for equality. So the male person is cheering for the game. The female person is also cheering because they can see the players play. The child is not because they cannot see. When you move into the equity piece, that means that everyone gets the support that they need. So the man in the equity picture, he's standing without the crate. The woman has the crate because she still needs to see over the fence. And the child has 2 crates because that's the exact support the child needs. Now, when we turn it to justice, nobody needs the crate. You have everything you need without the support and the accommodations because everybody can see. The fence is a chain link fence, so you can see through the holes and watch the game. Other depictions of the same terminology of equality versus equity and justice is that there is no fence for justice. The cause that will be the inequity, the barrier is removed. And so that's what we're talking about when we're talking in terms of what is social justice in education. We as educators need to teach our students that equal doesn't look the same for all. When you turn that to equity, we are accommodating to fit the benefit of others, but with justice, we are taking away that barrier. And to observe social injustices in our society, in the news, in even our classroom of harm that's been caused, taking away that barrier to students, to people of marginalized communities, really does make the society more equitable for all. And Dr. Bell really does show us that, in her words, the process for attaining social justice, as we view as necessarily inclusive, respectful of human diversity, and affirming for the capacity of all people to join and create change for our collective well-being. She also states that social justice then works against greed, selfishness, and hatred toward generosity, mutuality, and love. You can pair social justice education with social emotional learning. We talk about those themes of what it looks like to have empathy, what it looks like to have compassion. And you need both empathy and compassion in order to seek and fulfill justice. She also states, without recognizing and valuing diversity, we cannot effectively address issues of injustice. When you are reading titles of books, even finding it in all of your subject matters, you can do social justice with the sciences, you can do social justice with math, and look and see the different groups of people that have been marginalized and oppressed in every facet of education, and have that as a talking point for your students to research, have a talking point for your students to come up and create ideas of problem solving. As educators, we want our students to be lifelong learners and problem solvers. And to get to the crux of that, we need to teach them ways of social justice. Dr. Bell talks about the challenging hierarchy of these frameworks. You are going to be studying historical events. And like Gloria Ladson-Billings talks about, where you need to showcase and amplify the cultural groups that have been erased and silenced, and why that is in our history books, why narratives are still very Eurocentric driven, and what other voices that were happening in those events at that same time were affected. And she also wants you to understand the dynamics of people being oppressed and developing effective strategies of counteracting it. When we always say, if you see something, say something, right? You need to give your students the essential tools to practice what it means to speak up for others, what it means to be that ally that's not the silent A, like I always say, what it means to really use your brave voice to affect positive change. She wants you and challenges you, educators, to go into learning about the different social constructs of racial categories. You know, what was labeled as white as the dominant group, and how different ethnicities, Irish, Italian, and Jewish immigrants, when they first came, they weren't even considered in the white culture. Really does start to show our students what group had the advantage and the privilege, and what groups of people did not, because they didn't come from various ethnic groups that were deemed as superior. The authority of policy making. What was the result of privilege and disadvantage? She doesn't want you to shy away of, this is just how it is, and hearing those, that's how it's always been, and get over it, or that's just how things are, we can't change it, but we know it exists. Social justice is not going to allow business as usual. She talks about how dehumanization is also another feature of oppression. Teaching your students what dehumanization means. I want you to understand, when it comes to terms of social justice, is to talk about the civil rights movement as a good starting point to help your students grasp what social justice is, and paralleling that to the Black Lives Matter movement, the Say Her Name movement, and the Me Too movement, and being persistent in talking about other groups that have been grassroots in talking and wanting to mobilize equal and just society. There's going to be lots of pushback, especially when we're talking about societal changes, and to be prepared for naysayers, per se, people that will challenge your courage of trying to have this in your classroom. And it could be varying degrees of people of various socioeconomic statuses. It could be from people of various cultural backgrounds. And having those assumptions that your students would not be capable of grasping social justice issues is, I think, a very dangerous notion that our students are not capable of understanding, and they're not capable of helping solve the problem that we all face. Continue to have a timeline of the Voting Rights Act and a timeline of what happened in 2021 when the Supreme Court weakened that same Voting Rights Act for Black and Brown people by having restrictive voter restrictions in various states and gerrymandering. Those are more terms that your students can learn about that's happening, in real time with our society. I highly recommend, when you are talking about social justice in education, it can be a kindergarten through 12th grade scope. There are lots of resources out there that really does hone in on how you as the educator can guide your students with culturally relevant and responsive curriculum and material that is affirming and does not cause harm, especially to our BIPOC students and our students of different abilities and our students of different orientational backgrounds. And it also helps you with further understanding of what is going on in our country and even states that have passed very restrictive legislation on teaching social justice in the classroom. There's lots of things going around throughout the country of teachers being brave enough and still teaching it and losing their jobs because they want to be on the right side of history. And so we're going to continue this series of what is social justice in education. I'm going to do a 4-part series for January and February to get you educators in 2024 geared up with as many cool resources that I have found to help foster social justice in your classroom. I found another great resource from Edutopia about using films to explore social justice issues by Matthew Farber. And Matthew highlights director Ava DuVernay. When Ava DuVernay released her films and television series, she wondered how to ensure that her work would be effective in the classroom. After all, her works cover themes of Black family dynamics, race relations, and social justice issues in America. So she saw this opportunity to contribute to the educational community by creating a set of free, you heard it, free and robust online social impact lesson plans or learning companions to accompany her films. So the website is called Array 101, and it was created in 2020. DuVernay's companion lessons with her films have themes, objectives, and key points. She has lots of essential questions and classroom activities, and also more resources for your own self-reflection and deeper learning. 2 years ago, we saw an episode of Ava DuVernay's depiction of Colin Kaepernick's life in the series Colin in Black and White. And if I would have known, I would have really loved that resource of continuing in teaching my future teacher students how to infuse this episode with the themes and the key points and the activities that go alongside it. So just like I said, we're kicking off my series of social justice in education, what it means, how you as the educator can courageously understand the meaning and the importance of social justice, as well as how you can infuse these components into your day-to-day classroom community lives. If you would like more information on social justice initiatives, I've got some really neat social justice lesson plans that I have on my website, jebaedmonds.com/shop. My favorite lessons that really have you thinking more about social justice in the classroom. I have companion lessons that go with the books The Undefeated, The Red Pencil, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and Young, Gifted, and Black on my cultural curriculum shop. I'll have more details of where you can gather my resources and hire me to be your next diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging trainer for your organization. So I'll have all that for you in the show notes. That's all that I have for you today. Take care. Happy New Year. And I will see you here next week. Bye-bye.